Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation. So my name is Nadine DARSON BERETTA. I'm in charge of the Touristic Development Agency in the Aude department, which is a satellite agency of the Department Council in Lourdes and in charge of rolling out the touristic strategy in the Aude department. So we started in the beginning of last year work of reshuffling our touristic strategy. And so the first stage of this work was to rethink the sensitive view of the Aude department. So this is what I'm going to talk about. So my presentation will sort of revolve around this approach of this portrait, sensitive portrait of the Aude, which was carried out using various methods through focus groups, gathering very different public and young people, but also different players in various fields of activities in the social field, cultural field, sports or economy field, etc., albeit via surveys which were also carried out with tourists, but also with inhabitants too. And through these surveys, we were interested in the mirror effect, that is the perception we could have, the people from Aude could have, and the perception from the visitors of this territory. So why did we start with this sensitive portrait? Is because we wanted to identify the fundamentals in terms of values to be shared, and which to us seems of paramount importance, so that the strategy would be a kind of united strategy. So, as I said, I mean, we want to start with a sensitive portrait and then carrying out the survey with the older people. The survey was carried out with Aude Giraud, and we asked Cora Ladjing, an office. And so I took some of these excerpts. I'm not going to go through these 200 pages, but I took some excerpts from this survey linked with our topic, and as our colleague Cosinus asked us. So the approach with the word of the stakeholders and the players, or the cartography and the word of the customers also, and all this, I mean, contributed to make a diagnosis of our departmental touristic aspect. And so the sensitive portrait led this reflection led us to think about the identity of the territory. We had to work on all the markers, for example, which would allow to make a distinction between one territory and the other. We try to identify our specificity, no specific characteristics, which makes us stand out from another territory, put forward a sort of a dynamic entity and moving entity. And so we had this portrait in two parts, and I'm more specifically going to focus on the first part, everything which is visible, the way of life and framework, but also the second aspect on inhabitants, I mean, know-how and being how you were able to live together, and we developed some shared values. And so as a last and as a conclusion, I have a slide to comment this strategic pyramid of this of the department regarding tourism. So this portrait was split in various approaches. One of the first approach was to perceive, I mean, how the Aude would inspire various artists, and so we can see that there are some the colors are prevailing, and also we try to present the various landscape, which with various colors and very much diversified. And we can see in our department that we have so many landscapes, a diversity of landscape, which is a source of inspiration. So we can see here some presentations of Littoral, Minervois, L'Oralier, various areas of the landscape. And each time you can see trees, and you can see, for example, these cypress, which are markers. I will talk about it later. Now, work also regarding the analysis regarding the matters being used with the rocky soil, which is ubiquitous on the territory, and which tells a whole story on the geographical history in the Aude, and which makes us outstanding. And this work also concerned water in all its form. So there is a department open to the sea with waterways in the Aude going through the whole department. And here again, when there were landscape which were depicted with a different typology and different shades of light. Now you can see in the slides, you can see a small tick on the top right, what is the major aspect. So it was very important to look at these waters and see what was very specific. So two important things, Canal du Midi and Aude. So the Canal du Midi, so this Midi Channel is one of the most beautiful avenue of trees with the plane trees. And it's very important also in terms of what we call slow tourism in our jargon. Also very important in terms of planning and sort of reviewing this planning system when we think of the health of these trees and work in terms of urbanization in these avenues. Another major aspect also, the olfactive aspect, so olfactive atmosphere when we are in the Corbière, when we are in the Montagne Noire. This is a very important marker also. Climate also is prevailing, a Mediterranean climate, dry and hot, and in autumn with more storms. A lot of sun also, and this climate impacting the way of life, the way of living, the conviviality also, sharing moments, living outside, outdoor activities, and wind also was a very important marker, which is structuring 300 days a year, which allow also to highlight a specific identity, economic aspect, strong elements in terms of wind, and this also is a rhythm for our life, our everyday life. And light also is very important with the light changing because of the wind, changing because of landscape and diversity of landscape. But this is a very important element, light, which is very important, has been observed by the inhabitants. In terms of a landscape, also there's a job being carried out with this identification between the Corbière, Vallée de l'Aube, Montagne Noire, Pyrénées, Audoise. You can see various landscapes and atmospheres, and these elements are being experienced on the daily basis by the inhabitants from the Aude department. But also we see it as a very important legacy, and one of the approach of the portrait aspect was to gather all these elements which are connected so that we would be more aware of our wealth. The link to nature also, which is very important through the artists. The landscape aspect with the picturesque villages, I'm just skipping very quickly, and the castles also, castles which are fully part of the landscape. And one observation in these groups is that we don't say that there is a mist, we just say we don't see the castle. So it's a different way of looking at things and talking about the landscape. Also the opportunity of walking around with the Canal du Midi, with various itineraries and routes which are spread all around the department, and natural wealth also, outstanding wealth. 300 animal species and also vegetable species with the fauna and flora very well diversified. Universal heritage with UNESCO, Cité de Carcassonne au Canal du Midi being listed on the World Heritage. So these are just excerpts of this portrait which allowed us to identify what was connecting all the elements, and we were very proud of. With various surveys with the players or surveys with the tourists. They were interviewed on the shared identity, and so we can see that the natural elements, and for us as tourist actors, this was very it was very important to identify. So natural elements around the sun, mountain, the wind, landscape, sun also. are very prevailing, be it on the side of the players or the tourists. Also wine and tourism is one of the very important aspects of what the Department of Aude has to offer. And markers are very important in terms of tree avenues, because the vineyards, appear, through plane trees and also blackberry trees. And when we asked about keywords, identifying the territory, we can see that beauty is recurring. And this is also essential, and this reinforces the work we would like to do on proud, and also the importance to foster this proud for the inhabitants on the territories, but also proud, modest proud with the players, where the feedback are very strong on the side of the visitors. And then other actors, sea, mountain, vineyards also are prevailing also in terms of our markers, and explain how the preservation of a space is very important. So I'm nearly done. Now, natural heritage in the Aude in terms of tourism, 80% of the people answering questionnaires identify this as a key asset. And this is part of the strategic pyramid, because through the work, all these surveys and all these workshops and focus groups, and these studies in terms of documentary research helped us to identify this pyramid, identifying personality, value, positioning, ambition also. And in things we had to share, transmission and preservation was very important today. And this fostered the strategic positioning of the department to reach a kind of touristic model to regenerate the territory. That is, they commit themselves in this transformation, in preserving also the soul of the territory, the soul of these places, so that we transmit this heritage for a better evolution, a better preservation of this heritage. So it's a whole approach. We started with a sensitive portrait of a territory, which led us to this pyramid and this strategic work in order to roll out tourism in Aude department. Thank you.